Welcome back to the FanSpeak Network and another episode of Sibling Showdown. I'm just going to call this the Underdog Edition because usually we do Battle Royale drafts every Tuesday, and we will be doing a Week 15 Battle Royale draft. But we're also going to talk best ball, of course, on Underdog because the best ball playoffs officially start in Week 15, and we just found out our advance rates literally last night after the 2 Monday night games. So it was a wild Week 14, wild end to the best ball regular season. So it's time to talk about it. I'm joined by my brother, my sibling, Steve. You can follow him at Steve Speaks. Steve, how are you doing? A lot to talk about. We're going to quickly talk about best ball playoffs, kind of just a quick drive-by recap. We'll have a video up shortly with more about that. I'm sure more tweets and information about that. And then just kind of talk about how best ball playoffs will be this year. And then we will get in to all the offerings on Underdog for games this week and doing a Battle Royale draft, of course. So how are you doing? I think we're both like emotionally exhausted from the best ball playoff sweat, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it was definitely a rough sweat, and just the last 2 weeks didn't necessarily go entirely according to plan with a couple injuries, Chargers failing, Washington failing in Week 13. And then, of course, being on bye, so we had high exposure to them. And then, the Lions really failing, and the Cowboys just not going to their nth degree as they had the previous 5 weeks.
Yeah.
And then Tyreek getting hurt last night was
Yeah.
kind of final nail in the coffin for a few teams. But overall, we say all this, but we actually did really well. Our advance rate was really strong. So we're really happy. It's just we could have been, even that much higher. We were in a position to be much higher. So it's kind of a bittersweet, but I think we should both be very happy with the advice that we gave all year, all summer, paid off to really strong advance rates in Underdog.
Yeah, absolutely. And to speak to that, I mean, Steve worded it perfectly. I mean, probably you asked us a couple of weeks ago, I was feeling even better. The last 2 weeks run out, to Steve's point about all the teams we're highly exposed to: Chargers, Lions, Cowboys. I mean, even though they're awesome still, they still kind of, the foot was off the gas a little because of the lack of pushback with the Eagles. Washington by Week 13 was rough. You covered all of it, and why the last 2 weeks were kind of like, both with injuries and just kind of disappointing performances, kind of just hurt a little bit, but bittersweet because we still did really well. And again, I to your point, we put out a lot of content here on FanSpeak Network, on fanspeak.com. It's all free, by the way. Check out everything we offer on fanspeak.com, and we'll certainly be going all in with best ball yet again. Once the Super Bowl ends, it'll be right back to best ball season, and we will be back in the best ball street. So, always look for free content on fanspeak.com, on, shows here on FanSpeak Network. So obviously be sure to like and subscribe to the FanSpeak Network so when shows go live and when shows are up. But I think we gave a lot of great advice, a lot of great macro strategies that we were on this year. Just to cover quickly a couple of them, you and I, the biggest ones we talked about, we did a show in August that kind of highlighted, or early September, right before the season started. We talked about 3 quarterbacks and how that can help not just make it to playoffs, but advancing through playoffs. Well, obviously in the year that so many quarterbacks are injured, that proved to be key, because it's not like you and I weren't bit by the injury bug too. We were. It's just we have 3 quarterbacks on a lot of those teams that we talked about. Late round tight ends and liking the rookie tight ends. Sam Laporta has been just an absolute beast for us. We talked about stacking up good teams, and teams like the Cowboys, the Lions, the Chargers. Again, lately some haven't been as good as others, but the Dolphins, Raheem Mostert has been a hero, yet again. So, we talked about, those are some of the main points we talked about. Anything to elaborate on that? Because I think, some of those macro strategies are sometimes just as important as your player takes. Because let me tell you, you could listen to any best ball analyst. Nobody's always right and nobody's always wrong. And really, you just need to be right a lot more than you're wrong, but we're all going to make our mistakes. We're all going to have our victory laps. But we try to be a lot more right than wrong. And I think we generally were in our player takes, but the macro strategies are so important. So speak to that really quick.
Yeah, no, I think those strategies are important, and just to, we didn't give our specific advance rates, but we were both well over 25% on Underdog, and in the BBM and in general on Underdog. And Aaron Rodgers was one of my highest exposed quarterbacks, and he went down 4 plays into the season. But it didn't affect me as much as it would have if I was drafting only 2 quarterbacks on the majority of my teams. But the majority of my teams, the vast majority, probably over 75-80% of my teams had 3 quarterbacks. So, a Sam Howell, a Brock Purdy, whoever else, Desmond Ritter, somebody was getting me points late, Baker Mayfield, and able to save those weeks when, my top quarterback couldn't produce, or either due to bye or
or another injury.
or another injury, or just having a down week or two.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone does. So,
yeah.
Those types of things help. The multi, rookie or young tight end late round really paid off, like you said. And sure, I mean, guys like Hawkinson were great, Kelsey were great, but you had a Kittle were great.
Pay for it.
You had to pay for it, and there were other elite options up there. I mean, we wanted, of course, Tyreek Hill in the first round. We wanted, in the 5th round, multiple receivers, some quarterbacks and other running backs were definitely in that mix as well. So yeah, you could win and succeed that way, but it was not a lock, and especially going forward, some of those, like the case with Hawkinson, of course, being tied to some bad play,
quarterbacks,
is going to be questionable going forward.
Yeah. And I mean, to your point, there's no one way to play best ball. And that's what's so great about it. It's a very nuanced game. It's still a newer format in the underdog space and DraftKings and the places, drafters where we're playing. And so, I think there's not one right way to play. And that's what makes it great, is finding the strategies that work for you. These are some of the strategies that work for us. Also, just really stacking up good teams, not focusing on specific, a quarterback and 3 receivers, but just stacking up good teams, and maybe including the running back. If you did Tua and one of his running backs and Hill, you're feeling pretty good right now. So those kind of things, they again were things you could check back all summer that we talked about here on the FanSpeak Network, wrote about on fanspeak.com. And we will keep you posted here on FanSpeak Network, on fanspeak.com, as the best ball playoffs progress. We have a video coming, or that'll be up here on YouTube, with our advance rates. But generally speaking, like Steve said, we were both over 25% on Underdog. So, very, very excited about that. And we'll, get into it more and more each week, but happy about that. And then before we move on to, all the games we're excited to play here on Underdog this week, Steve, the other thing I'll say about the nuances of best ball playoffs for this year that's going to be so weird is, even in the BBM, which is 1 of 16 to make it through to the semifinals, 1 of 16 to make it to the finals, or in the DraftKings Millie Maker, 1 of 12, it's tough. It's tough, in those flagship tournaments. I'll tell you what, no matter what tournament you're in and trying to advance in, there's gonna be a lot of dead teams. And I mean, dead, some teams may not have a quarterback, or some teams may only have 1 running back, or some teams may not have a tight end, stuff like that, just because of the nature of quarterback injuries, but injuries in general, and just a combination of then super, super inefficient play. And listen, I have a couple that I'm like, well, it made it, but I'm not feeling super hopeful about that. I'm sure Steve will join us again here when he jumps back on. But so yeah, it's very unique in that way. And that's something to keep in mind. I think this year's playoffs are going to be very unique for that first round, because you'll get set in a pod, with, depending on what your tournament is, you'll get set in a pod, and then you're going to have to, kind of look and see who you're up against. But I'm guaranteeing when you look at those other, say BBM 15 teams that you're up against, there's going to be some dead teams. And that's going to make this interesting, this quarterfinals interesting, probably more so than any other year that we've played in BBMs and Underdog and stuff. So that is going to be interesting. I don't know, Steve, I think, is having internet issues. That's okay. He can jump in when he gets in. I'm going to go ahead and queue up Battle Royale. As you can see here, I brought over Underdog. There's some, obviously, well, first of all their playoff stuff. They've got the mittens up, so you can do playoff best ball now. Again, use code FANSPEAK if you're new to Underdog. Get 100% deposit bonus up to $100. So they've got the mitten, $5 price point, big mitten, $250 price point, and Little Mitten $3. And then they've got their flagship. Well, let me find it really quick. The Gauntlet is their $25, kind of similar to their BBM. And then they even got a playoff weekly winners. The weekly winners was a really cool format that they did this year. So that's really interesting. A lot of cool playoff stuff that you can start firing at already and take shots. And there's a lot of interesting, unique ways to play that. And we'll probably start doing playoff shows here soon. Probably want to get through another week or so of the best ball playoffs, and then we'll start doing playoff drafts. So, but as you can see, like, we have a 3-game Saturday slate. So there's a primetime Palooza of Thursday and Saturday. There is a Saturday only shootout with the 3 games, $5 buy-in. So there's a lot of fun games this week that you can consider. We are going to, of course, draft the Battle Royale. I will just let Steve know if he can jump back in. Let me just let him know. Just bear with me. I know we're live. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and start a Battle Royale draft. If Steve's able to join us, hopefully he can. If not, we will rip this thing here and hopefully take an early look here at week 15. So again, this is the week 15 Battle Royale, but there's a lot of games on Underdog that I am interested in. Hold on, let me let him know again. Battle Royale. Okay. All right. So draft starts in 46 seconds, and we are the 5th pick. So as you know, six, you're drafting with 5 others. And we got the 5th pick. So we'll be kind of at the turn here. Steve and I were talking a little bit pre-show about what we like for this week. Obviously, Buffalo Dallas is going to be one of the high totals on the game. Purdy and San Francisco has looked amazing. So that's always of interest. Stafford against Washington. Stafford's been playing great of late. Kupp looked a lot better, last week, getting a little healthier. Washington's always one you want to target. So, I think those are probably the main quarterback targets that you're probably looking for. And no surprise, the running backs at the top, McCaffrey, Kyron Williams, Bijan Robinson, Alvin Kamara, Miami backs. Actually, a chain is much higher than Mostert right now. And then, of course, Lamb, Tyreek Hill. Had to get news. He returned, obviously, to the game yesterday, but have to make sure he's all good to go. Kupp is very interesting. And then the tight ends, Kelsey is on the slate. You got Kelsey, Kittle at the top. Because obviously with the Thursday game, the Sunday night game, the Monday night game, and then 3 Saturday games, this is, I believe, a 10-game slate. So looking at the board, it went Christian McCaffrey, CeeDee Lamb, Kyron Williams. We are 2 picks away, and then we are on the clock. So it went then Tyreek Hill. Okay, so you know what I'm going to do here? I think I'm just going after. I'm tempted to go after. Deebo's been playing out of his mind lately. Tempted about that to keep, and maybe he'll still be there. But I'm going Cooper Kupp. Let me cue this in case I'm having issues. Internet has not been my friend today. I'm going Cooper Kupp against that Washington defense. He looked back against Baltimore, and against that Washington defense, I think he could eat them alive. Deebo Samuel, no surprise, went next. So it went Deebo, Stephon Diggs, and then we are back on the clock. Obviously, I'll be queuing up Stafford probably for later, unless I get another receiver I really like. We got Bijan Robinson up top against Carolina. That's interesting. I got 10 seconds left. I could go Ayuk and just get another 49ers receiver just to get a piece of that 49ers offense. And I think that's what I'm going to do and grab my second receiver because I do love Bijan in that matchup. I think there are plenty of other running backs that I'm interested in, including Kamara against the Giants. Obviously, both Miami running backs. I'm surprised Mostert's all the way down here. Henry had 2 touchdowns, not many yards, but he's a touchdown monster. An Underdog, we're hunting touchdowns. So let's take a look at the board here. Okay, so it went, I drafted Cooper Kupp, Debo Samuel, Stephon Diggs went next, and I came back, got Brandon Ayuk, just want a piece of that 49ers offense. And there was a run on the running backs with Alvin Kamara, Bijan Robinson, and Rashad White. Okay, and then at the turn, Steve's trying to reset the modem. We'll see. Internet's fun. Technology is so fun. So at the turn here, let's see what they do, and then we'll start queuing up for picks 17 and 20. Let's go back. Okay, so they grab Kelsey. So Kelsey just it's always good in your first couple drafts to see where where guys are going. And so obviously there was a big run on receivers in the first round. Kelsey went in the second round. And so it's coming back around, and again, we'll be up. And then they went ahead and took Brock Purdy with McCaffrey. I like that. Good call. Getting all that 49ers touchdown equity, which is plenty. Again, we'll be up at pick 17 and 20. So, Matthew Stafford, I have to think will go later. I have him queued up just because, Purdy's already gone. I got Ayuk. I think he could absolutely shred the Washington defense. I think he'll probably go higher than his ADP. So I'm tempted to maybe just grab him at 20 because I don't know that he'll be back when I come back on the clock at 29, just because, again, the matchup, usually this early in the week, ADPs don't match entirely. So I'm probably going to take one running back here and then target Stafford at 20. So we've got a chain. We've got Henry. We've got Barkley, who's in the mix. Cook looked great. Mostert. Honestly, I'd be kind of comfortable with any of these guys. As you can see, their projections are fairly similar. I don't know. I'm probably going to lean Mostert, just even though they are splitting it, he and a chain is, yes, more explosive. Mostert's getting generally more of the work, though. And as you saw last night on Monday Night Football, he got the 2 touchdowns. So hopefully he can do that again. And we got Raheem Mostert as our first runner back on the clock. And I'm going to go ahead and take Matthew Stafford. Some may think that's early, but I want that stack against Washington. I'm a Washington fan, so I know it well. I know the pain very, very well of how bad our defense is and how you want to target going against that Washington secondary. So to start, I got Cooper Kupp, Brandon Ayuk, Raheem Mostert, Matthew Stafford. It's going around, and Patrick Mahomes, David Njoku coming around the turn, and then I'll finish up with picks 29 and 32. Most likely I'll get a second running back. Again, running back feels deep to me, unless there's just like a great receiver still there. I don't think Mike Evans, he's coming off a down game, but I like Mike Evans in a bounce back spot. If for some reason Tyreek Hill is banged up, you could, Waddle looked great against the Jets on Black Friday game. Rashee Rice is getting more targets. Drake London looked great. I think there's other receivers you could go to, but more than likely I'll probably go running back and then tight end. Once the first couple tight ends are off the board, don't really force it, and I kind of take that last. I do like Jake Ferguson, though, a lot. So that would be a consideration as well. Okay, so we're up in 3 picks. Again, let's just look at the board real quick. Again, I went Matthew Stafford to complete that Stafford Cup stack. Then it went Mahomes, Njoku, McBride, Devin Achane. The other Miami running back, Mike Evans, did go. Not surprised at all, coming back around. Again, I'm kind of tempted to take Jake Ferguson here because I do like him a lot more than some of these other tight ends, and just gain a piece of that Dallas offense in a high total game is very intriguing to me. Let me just make sure there's some other, flex options. I think there's enough because there's only 2 guys in between me. Now they'll be taking 1 to 2 running backs more than likely because they don't have any. So both of these guys could go. That's a risk I'm willing to take, I think. I even could go to a Breece Hall, or, hell, you could go down to Elliott the way he played, or James Conner. Or I'd be fine with the flex options that I have queued up too. So I think I'm going to grab, just because looking at the other tight ends, you can make a case for them too, but Ferguson looks awesome. And just that, getting him in that high total game I like a lot. So right now I have Stafford, Mostert, Cup, the stack, Ayuk, Ferguson. And I targeted good offenses. We're talking, Buffalo, Rams, San Francisco, Miami. I like that. I'm back on the clock. And as I predicted, both those running backs are off the board. So to me, it's either Waddle, Rice, which you could kind of run it back in that game. I'm sorry. No, I'm wrong game. To me, it's either going to be Rice or Brees Hall. I'm kind of leaning Brees Hall, actually. Same game. There's a little Mostert, right, Brees Hall action. But I kind of like Brees Hall. I mean, they obviously put up a lot more points last week. The Jets did. And, against Miami's, I think, gonna, I was shocked that they lost to the Titans, but I think they're going to bounce back, get a win. But, hopefully Brees Hall can be a little more efficient if Zach Wilson is indeed, again, a little efficient. So as you can see, we got Cooper Kupp, Brandon Ayuk, Raheem Mostert, Matthew Stafford, Jake Ferguson, and Brees Hall. In hindsight, maybe I should have taken Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley for that second flex option, second running back. But I don't think Deep Brees Hall is that much of a downgrade. And then I was able to get Jake Ferguson. But again, now looking at it, and this is where you have to be quick, did make an error. Because coming around the corner, they already had Kittle. They likely wouldn't have gone Jake Ferguson for a double tight end build. So I could have gone running back and Jake Ferguson. But you live and you learn when you're on stream. Hey, Steve, you there?
Hey, sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. I just made a mistake that I caught, but you live and you learn. So let me break it down for you. Let's see if can you see the board okay?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So basically I had the 5 spot. I went ahead and took Cooper Kupp. Then Debo Diggs went after. Then I said, you know what? I want a piece of that 49ers offense too. So I got Ayuk. And then as you can see, then it went Kamara, Bijan, Rashad White, Kelsey. They stacked Purdy and McCaffrey, which I liked at the 1 spot. And then Puka, Dak, Pollard. And then I decided I want a piece of the Miami offense. So I was just targeting good offenses. So I got Raheem Mostert. It went Josh Allen, Kittle. I decided I'm going to get Stafford now. I know his ADP is 30, but I don't buy it against Washington. I just think he wasn't going to be there. So I grabbed Stafford. And so I was left with, okay, I want to get probably one of these running backs and a good tight end. And I really wanted Jake Ferguson. Well, in hindsight, if I was a little sharper and not my first draft of the Battle Royale week, I would have really been paying attention to, they already have George Kittle. So the person between me had back-to-back picks and they had Kittle. They probably likely weren't taking Jake Ferguson. So I could have taken Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley and then still gotten Jake Ferguson with pick 32. So big error. I decided I wanted Jake Ferguson. And so I took him. I missed out on the 2 running backs and I got Brees Hall. I don't think it's that massively of a downgrade. I think Brees Hall and Mostert in that same game could be kind of interesting. And I do like that I stacked good offenses with obviously the Rams against Washington, San Francisco, Miami, Dallas. I'm happy about that. And getting access to high total games. I just made a very gross, big error with, not paying attention to the fact that they had Kittle. And that's what happens on live drafts sometimes, that they had Kittle and I could have just waited on Ferguson, grabbed a second running back there, would have preferred Henry or Barkley, and then grabbed Ferguson with my last pick at 32. So that's how I finished up. What do you think?
Maybe it'll pay off. Maybe Hall, will outscore. I mean, he had the monster week this week. So
I was going to say Jets looked a lot better. I still think Dolphins bounce back, get a win against New York this week, but they looked a lot better this week. Zach Wilson's playing with nothing to lose. Maybe just play a little better than they did Black Friday when they were playing with who's that guy they cut? God, that was awful.
Boyle.
Yeah, Tim Boyle. Whew, that was awful. But maybe they play a little better and Brees Hall's still there. So I'll read the team one last time. Cooper Kupp, Brandon Ayuk, Raheem Mostert, Matthew Stafford, Jake Ferguson, Brees Hall. Yeah, so first run at it, I'm pretty happy because it's kind of the things you and I talked about. Getting access against the Washington secondary, always something you want to do. I was still happy with the running backs overall that I got. I think, the 3rd tight end off the board, or the 3rd tight end that I had ranked probably.
Mm-hmm.
So I think overall I was fairly happy with it. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Yeah, no, I think again, Washington and San Francisco and Dallas are winning strategies, and this week for sure. Uh, so yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Oh, good, good. I'm glad you like it. And yeah, obviously, you and I both dealt with internet issues. Oh, internet's always fun, but I'm glad to have you back. Get your final thoughts on that. And of course, again, stay tuned to Steve's Battle Royale rankings. They'll be up on fanspeak.com. Stay tuned to any other videos and articles and stuff that we do about the best ball playoffs. We are so excited. We had so much fun bringing content all summer long about best ball, and we are going to be so excited to share how the best ball playoffs unfold for us. So we are really, really, really looking forward to that. If you're in the best ball playoff streets, good luck to you. Good luck in the Battle Royale streets. For Steve, I'm Meg, and we will see you next time.